and the Bronco season is officially over.
It was New Year's Eve 2006, and in Denver, there was little to celebrate. The Broncos season had ended in a crushing overtime loss, eliminating them from the playoffs. Melancholy settled over the city, but the worst was yet to come.
It's just like boom, 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 boom.
In the early morning hours of New Year's Day, Broncos cornerback Darrent Williams, a popular and promising young player, was murdered in a drive-by shooting. The 24-year-old's violent death rocked the world of sports and became a turning point for Denver police. A CBS News analysis found the department solved just 17% of the city's homicides in 2006. 2 years later, that number jumped to 93%.
What happened?
Well, we changed a lot of things.
Former Denver District Attorney Mitch Morrissey says the changes included the creation of a witness protection program in the DA's office and an undercover fugitive unit at Denver Police. Williams' killer was part of a street gang that instilled fear in would-be witnesses.
The back of Darrent Williams' funeral home, where they were holding the service, were gang members wearing Stop the Snitching t-shirts. That yields a difficult environment to solve cases.
Steve Siegel spearheaded the witness protection program that he says helped usher in a new era of trust between law enforcement and the community.
They were building little piece by little piece a sense of trust that then gets passed word by word, mouth by mouth, family to family, neighbor to neighbor, that you can talk to these people, you can trust them.
Trust reinforced by a new cold case unit at Denver Police.
The cases that go unsolved, we don't give up. We're not going to forget about those cases. We're not going to flip the calendar and move on to the next set of challenges.
Today, despite being down 100 officers, Chief Paul Payson has 3 detectives dedicated to cold cases, a commitment he traces back to a meeting he attended years ago, where families of homicide victims and missing persons took turns telling their stories.
You could still see the pain and the hurt, more so on the unsolved cases. And it was just one of those moments that I have never forgotten. I will continue to take with me, but it just reinforced what our major crimes detectives do on a daily basis, that we have to solve these cases.
He was, 4 years old.
The dedication is not lost on families, many of whom send cards and letters that detectives like Adam Golden keep at their desks, along with victims' pictures and funeral notices.
This is one from a mother of a homicide victim. She sent me this card, talking about worst day of her life and how hard it must be for me. Those nights where you're tired or you haven't eaten or the weather's terrible and you're processing a crime scene. Things like these are a good reminder for us as to why we do this. It is more than a job. It is something that we live and we breathe. We take it home with us.
It's tough to get them to go home sometimes after, hey, you've been here 24 hours, you gotta get offline.
Commander Matt Clark oversees the homicide and cold case units and says they invest heavily in their investigators.
They go to very specialized training in terms of open source intelligence. We work with social media platforms. We do shooting reconstruction schools, homicide schools.
They partner closely, too, with federal law enforcement.
I have an ATF agent who's embedded in the homicide unit. He sits at a desk in the unit, and the resources that he can bring to us are significant.
The year after Williams' murder, Denver voters also approved a $28 million state-of-the-art crime lab.
I saw DNA in some cases that was done within 24 hours if the chief asked for it. So they could bring that to bear, and there's nowhere in the country where you see that.
Denver's approach to solving homicides has caught the attention of the National Institute of Justice.
They called what we had the triangle of collaboration. It was the detectives, the DA's office, and the crime lab.
The city's homicide rate today is the highest in more than 30 years, with 2 people killed on average every week.
Confirm the address on
South Penn.
And while Clark says they've solved about 70% of those homicides so far this year and last year, he's focused on the ones they haven't solved.
I recognize that there's 25% of our cases that aren't. There's 10 families that are waiting for that closure.
Closure. Darren Williams' family received 3 years after his murder.
I think there's still hope.
His killer got a life sentence.
Sometimes it's luck, but a lot of times your luck comes when you build the right teams, when you have the protocols in place, and we did all of that.
And I hope it communicates to the offenders, that the Denver Police Department, that we are still looking for the offenders, that we're coming after you, and you won't get away with murder.